We are all enlisted till the conflict is o'er. Happy are we, happy are we. Soldiers in the army, there's a bright crown in store. We shall win and wear it by and by. Haste to the battle, quick to the field. Truth is our helmet, buckler, and shield. Stand by our colors, proudly they wave. We're joyfully, joyfully marching to our home. During the age of revolutions, great thinkers like John Locke, Voltaire, and Thomas Jefferson espoused the tenet that freedom is coupled with duty. Countless contemporaries have expounded on this idea. Some of my favorites include Robert Frost, declaring that freedom lies in being bold, and Nelson Mandela, who offers that to be free is not merely to cast off one's chains, but to live in a way that respects and enhances the freedom of others. But the take on freedom that is especially profound to me, and the focus of my address to you today, is the admonition of Peter Marshall, the twice-appointed chaplain of the United States Senate. May we think of freedom not as the right to do as we please, but as the opportunity to do what is right. The first thing these fervent words evoke to me is the story of my great-grandfather, Merrill Larsen. When the United States entered the Second World War in 1941, Merrill worked as a pharmacist, having recently completed the necessary schooling. The owner of that pharmacy, a man named Johnny Booth, also came to have an influential position on the local draft board. Many of the other men in that small town of Spanish Fork, Utah, were being conscripted into military service, but Booth pulled my Grandpa Merrill aside one day and told him that he needn't worry about being drafted. He said that Merrill's work as a pharmacist was important to the town and that he should continue to serve the best he could in his local capacity. The world could produce few men who, when given that guarantee that they wouldn't be required to enter the fray of war, when ensured that they would not be torn from the comfort and security of their peaceful rural life, could will themselves to the recruiter's office and enlist voluntarily. That is exactly what my great-grandfather did, with a young wife and their first child due very soon. Merrill left for basic training 6 weeks after his daughter, my wonderful grandmother, was born with a life-threatening delivery. He told his family years later when asked about the event that if he had not gone to fight and Hitler had won, he would not have been able to live with himself. The man my great-grandfather and so many others fought against was among the most formidable threats to freedom the world has ever encountered. My sister recently had the opportunity to interview 10 of those veterans of the Second World War. One of them, Walter Roloff, was a German soldier for the Axis powers. He prayed every day that he wouldn't have to kill anyone, and that prayer was answered. Walter stated that though he disagreed with Hitler, he had no choice but to fight for him. We can only imagine what it must be like to look on as oppression and brutality swelter around us, to feel the burning of empathy and the prickings of conscience, but to know that intervention or activism will inevitably lead to our own suffering and that of our loved ones. Such is the cruelty of tyranny. This is the enemy we face, and it must be purged at all cost. But know this: no despot, no genocide, no unthinkable calamity can divest you of your inalienable sovereignty of thought, your indomitable power of will. Take Viktor Frankl, captured, imprisoned, tortured, and dehumanized, but still able to maintain that everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of human freedoms. To choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. The Nazis tried to drown him in despair, but Frankl's buoyancy prevailed, and his positivity was a strength to the others in Auschwitz. In a situation so bleak and desolate, it would have been easy, it would have pleased the natural man to cave into hopelessness and simply give up. Frankl instead took the opportunity to do what was right, doing the most good he possibly could among camp inmates. If he, detained in a Nazi death camp, could find within himself that measure of personal liberty to do good, think of what we can do as citizens of the freest nation on earth. As we celebrate our independence this July, and every day, as we enjoy freedoms that so many in the world would envy, let us not forget. We are all in a position to do good. We all have a duty to fulfill. We are all enlisted. Thank you.